What up, motherfuckers? And ladies. So, what we're talking about today is how much equipment do you really need to be able to get your setup for your studio for doing hip hop, R&B, pop music, maybe even Foley work, which would be for sound effects. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, that's what we're talking about today. But before we get into that shit, motherfuckers, make sure y'all subscribe. I got like 5 subscribers now. You know what I mean? So I'm climbing. But shit, I need more like a motherfucker. So help your boy out. Hit the subscribe button. Also hit that ding so you can make sure that you get a notification anytime I put some new shit up on my page. Alright? So, how much equipment do you need? Man, also stick around to the end because I'm going to throw a funny little something at the end of it. You know me, I like to try to hook y'all up and shit with some funny shit at the end. So, anyway, you don't need a lot of equipment. Plain and simple. A lot of people think that you need these big ass studios. You be seeing these people on YouTube and they got like a gang of studio equipment. The shit's all huge and all this bullshit. I'm gonna tell you right now, the equipment don't make music. Okay? I'm gonna say it one more time. The equipment does not make music. It is the producer or the producer that is behind the equipment that makes the music. Music is like a gun. How motherfuckers be like, guns don't kill people, people with guns kill people. It's the same thing with music. Equipment don't make music. Motherfuckers with equipment make music. So, don't think because you got the dopest piece of equipment that you're gonna be a dope producer. If you suck with little equipment, guess what? You gonna suck with big equipment too. So getting better at doing your production doesn't mean getting better equipment, motherfucker. It means practicing, consistency, learning. I advise everyone out there, learn how to fucking play an instrument, preferably the piano, because it'll help you with understanding harmonies and keys. Like I be hearing people putting loops together, and I don't have an issue with doing loops. I fuck with loops, because I can play 5 different instruments, so I have the right to play with loops, right? However, I see fools getting loops and they'll have like the bass in C and then the fucking the synths are in like B sharp or some bullshit or B flat, you know what I mean? And so I'm like, what the fuck are y'all doing? And I ain't saying that those notes can't go together if they're put together the right way, but in most of these loops I'm hearing, them shits sound like fucking chaos because motherfuckers don't understand harmonies and stuff. So make sure that you're actually learning. Don't go and try to buy the most expensive piece of equipment and think that that's what's gonna make you a good producer. You having a gang of, expensive equipment and not knowing how to produce is fucking equivalent to giving a Tesla to a fucking 8-year-old. Like, I don't give a fuck how dope that car is. It ain't shit with an 8-year-old. So what you need to do is you need to get something small and you need to grow from that shit and grow out of it. Don't just get it and then they come out with something new and you like, oh, yep, gotta get that too. Music equipment is not a fucking phone, okay? Like, my mother, she gonna be like, motherfucker, why are you using me for an example? But it's like, she gets a new phone when they come out, right? All she do is fucking text and make calls. She don't even fucking use social media. So why do you need to keep upgrading to all these phones that fucking James Bond 007 motherfuckers is running around with, and all you do is text and call people? That shit don't make no sense. So that's the same thing with equipment. Outgrow what you have. Learn all the features of what you have. And before you buy equipment, understand the language of equipment so you'll know exactly what you're looking for. So understand, minimum things like quantizing. Understand what quantizing means. Understand what sequencing means, looping, things like that, so you'll know what type of equipment to look for. Once you find the equipment that has the language of what you're looking for, which means the features that you're looking for, then you go with what is cost effective. So if you're just starting out, don't go buy no MPC-X. Motherfucker, go get a fucking MPC Studio or something, just something small to figure out what the programs do, what the software does. You can start out with GarageBand. Just go get yourself a little Mac and start out with GarageBand. Start fucking around with that and see what it does. And then when you like, okay, I'm outgrowing this. I need more sounds. I need more of this. Upgrade to something like Logic. And I'm not endorsing those things. I'm just saying that's an easy way to do it. Like, I started out with the MPC 2000 XL. And even before that, all I had was a fucking keyboard that Yamaha made. I bought this shit, I think, out of like Circuit City. Most of you motherfuckers don't even know what Circuit City is, you know what I mean? And I bought this out of a store called Circuit City, and it was a Yamaha DJ-X. It had 6 tracks on it, no looping, okay? So if you had a song that was 3 minutes, you played that instrument for 3 fucking minutes. No quantizing. So if you had to make sure your shit was on time, you had a separate metronome to keep the time signature for you, okay? So I started out on that, and it had 6 tracks, and I would go through each fucking one. I learned how to play the kick, snare, hi-hat, and some percussions or a shaker all in one track with my fingers, because I didn't have tracks to spare, so I got to get all this shit on one, you know what I mean? And I learned how to do that, and I outgrew that, and then I ended up getting the MPC. After getting that MPC, I was like, man, I need some new sounds as far as like, you know, synths, keyboards, bass, and stuff like that. So I ended up going and getting the Ensoniq EPS 16 Plus. It was a rack. And a lot of people don't know what that is. A lot of you guys don't even know what Ensoniq is. And that board was made after the, you know, ASR 10. And I mean, and actually, I'm glad I brought that up. The ASR 10 was a very old board. Timberland, he uses that ASR 10 to this day, probably. I know that I ran into Timberland in the studio probably about maybe 13 years ago. And we were at a studio in LA called Conway Studios. And he was there, and it was him, Scott Storch was there, Christina Aguilera was there. But Timberland, I walk in, and he had an ASR 10 sitting right there. And but he and I were talking in the lunchroom at first, and I was telling him, I was like, yeah, man, I work on the Ensoniq EPS 16 Plus. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, now the EPS, that came out after the ASR 10. That was the next board that Ensoniq came out with, right? So he was like, really? This is like a side story. So he's like, come with me. Let me show you something. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, yeah, fucking rolling with Timberland. So he takes me into his studio, and he shows me the board. He was like, you know what that is? And I was like, ASR 10. He was like, yup. And he still was using that board. Was like 20 years old probably, if not more. And he was still, motherfucker pulled out a floppy disk and was putting floppy disk inside of his fucking keyboard, because that was the sounds that he just loved the way the sampling on that shit was. So I say that to tell you that you don't need new shit. And at this time, Timberland was probably worth, I don't know, at least a good 20, 30 mil or some bullshit like that. Like that motherfucker was up there. It wasn't like he just was coming out or nobody knew him. You all knew who he was, you know what I'm saying? So matter of fact, the timeline of this was when that song Still Dre, that with Dre, bling 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 bling, and Scott Storch did that. And the reason I remember that is because that same weekend, that song, Dr. Dre, still spreading the top of them lolos, girls, whatever they say on that shit, it came on inside of the pool room at the studio. And Scott Storch walked in, and I didn't know who he was. And he was sitting there on the side of the pool table, just like rocking with his sunglasses on, bobbing his head. And I was like, damn, you feeling this, huh? And he was like, nah, he said, yeah. He said, this is my first time hearing it on the radio out here. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I did this track. And I was like, really? And I introduced myself to him. He told me his name was Scott Storch. I had no idea who he was. And then we kicked it for the whole night, smoked some weed and shit. This motherfucker had this long ass fucking pipe. So it was cool, but I know I just got off track and told y'all some bullshit side stories, but the whole point of everything that I'm trying to tell you guys is this is how long ago this was. And at that point, Timberland's board was still already about, 15, 20 years old, and he was rocking shit that was on the radio. So just keep that in mind when it comes to your production. Is it don't matter what you have on the fucking board, it matters what you have up here in your mind, and it matters of how much time you put in to your craft. I don't have an expensive setup, but I can still sell beats, and it's been that way my whole life. My studio was always in my house, and I'm telling you, I've been to many people's studios where they got all this shit and they renting out office space to make it studios, and I come in and I'm doing something, they like, damn, how are you doing this? Or how are you getting that sound? And I'm listening to their music, and it's just lacking a lot of different things. So just make sure that what you focus on, instead of getting the dopest equipment, is getting the dopest habits, which means consistency and practicing, and also listening to other people's criticism. And I don't mean just like when you let somebody hear a track and they like, you know what would sound dope though? If you put a little right here, and they ain't never done a fucking track in their life. I'm talking about like real criticism of, hey, you know what, you might need to tweak this here, you might need to tweak that there. But don't even worry about when you let people hear your shit of it being, you know, all the way mixed down, to be honest with you. Because I'll put it like this. If for me, I've been doing music, I'm 36 now, and I started doing production, not even being a musician, but doing production when I was 16, okay? So this is 20 years of me doing production. And if a person comes to me that's an amateur and they like, hey man, listen to my track, I don't listen to it and be like, you need to do this with the mix, you need to do this with that. Fuck all that. I understand you working with what you have, and I'm hearing it the same way you hear it, as a complete project. Now, when you go let somebody else that knows nothing about music, nothing about mixing, nothing about production, they're just a listener, you let them hear it, they're gonna start comparing you to the shit that they hear on fucking Spotify and on the radio and shit, and like, man, you need to make it do this. Fuck them. They don't understand where you're at in your creativity and where you're at in your level of the game, you know what I'm saying, and your talent and what you have access to. Sometimes you just don't have access to certain things, you know what I mean? So I understand that. So you don't need to worry about the opinions of people who don't understand what you're doing. You worry about the opinions of people like me who understand what you're doing, that can give you a real piece of instructive criticism. I've seen Timberland instruct Kanye West on how to make his kicks fatter and how to make them hit harder. You know what I'm saying? And those are two great producers right there. But Kanye was like, oh, okay. And he was listening to what Timberland was saying, because Timberland is known for having those fucking kicks that just got fucking meat in the motherfuckers. Like, them motherfuckers is obese. They fat as fuck. You know what I mean? So Kanye listened to that shit. So make sure that you listen when people are telling you what to do, because it's not the equipment you have, it's how you work that equipment. All right? So, with all that being said, I'm going to show y'all a video that I did. I did it for my kid. Obviously, I like to do fun shit for my kid. And I did this video for my son about just having a good day, right? Because he wake up and he be starting the day out getting in trouble, talking shit. So I'm like, man, can't we just have a good fucking day without all the whining? Then I made a song about that shit. I'm not a videographer, okay? So I did this video, and you'll see so many errors in it. But once you watch it, you'll get the point of the video. And after I did this, I kept doing more and more and more videos, and I actually got better at it. Even that wasn't even a goal. The goal of mine would get better. But whenever you do something over and over and over, you tend to get better at it. So with the videos, I got better. And I put this video up on YouTube, and it had, I think it got like, I don't know, 600 views or some bullshit like that. And it got like 14, 15 likes on it. And people really liked what it was. And I'm saying this and putting this, showing you guys this, so you'll see you don't have to have everything. You don't have to have all the top shit. All you have to have is the idea and the drive to put it out there. And somebody will understand where you're coming from. And they'll give you a pass knowing that you don't have all the up shit. And they'll be like, man, he did the best with what he had. She did the best with what she had. So whatever you got to do, just do the best with what you have. All right? So, once again, make sure you subscribe. It's Mink Amrak. Amrak, it's just karma spelled backwards, motherfuckers. So, fucking subscribe. Okay? Tell your friends, subscribe. All right, so I'm out of this bitch. Watch this video. Peace. Man, I think we need to have a good day, man. Yeah. No more bad days. I know my Jamaican accent is horrible, man. But as long as I say man, I'm okay. You listen. Open your eyes and stretch your limbs. Feel the love like a gust of wind. Get out the bed and give a smile. Maybe do a dance while you smile. Go to the bathroom and clean up now. Ask for help if you don't know how. Brush your teeth, make them squeaky clean. And wash your face cause you will be seen. A healthy breakfast is what we'll have. While we eat we should have a laugh. And set the mood for the rest of the day. So please listen out to what I say. We're gonna have a good day today. We're gonna have a good day today. We're gonna have a good day
to class. Our happiness one day must last. No matter what happens today, our happiness is here to stay. We won't cry when it's homework time. We know it's good to expand our minds, play some games and have some fun. And now we say goodbye to the sun. You had a good day, I know you would. Tomorrow's going to be twice as good. Now set the mood for tomorrow's day. So child, dream of what I say. We're gonna have a good day today. 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 Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Now do a dance to have a good day. Now do a dance to have a good day. Now do a dance to have a good day. Now do a dance to have a good day. Now do a dance to have a good day. Now do a dance to have a good day. Now do a dance to have a good day. Now do a dance to have a good day.